Captain Picard wants his junior officers to learn, learn, learn. Counselor Troy hypnotizes Dr. Crusher. And what does helm control have to do with medical cross-checks? Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby. Hello. My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we have our review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Episode 6, Lonely Among Us, story by Michael Halperin, teleplay by D.C. Fontana, the legend, directed by Mr. Cliff Bole. This was November 2nd, 1987. We have an amazing special guest, everybody. Mr. Legend himself, makeup supervisor himself, Michael Westmore. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody.
I feel like I could have just introduced you for like 20 minutes because everybody knows your name, everybody knows everything you've done, and we are just fascinated and in love with your career. This episode, of course, this entire season is sponsored by Grandpa One, Mr. Tim Baum, and also this episode specifically, special thanks to Austin Balhagen. All right. Michael, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
The man, the myth, the legend.
I can forget other things, but I remember all the episodes.
Perfect.
Wow. For me, it's been really a trip because there's so many I don't remember. So many.
Really? Do you remember this one, Denise?
Yes, I remember. Because I remember the aliens, but I kind of forgot about the whole energy thing, cloud.
Me too.
I did.
I'm still not sure about that whole piece. So I'm like, what's happening here? What exactly is going on? It was a little odd, I like the two layered stories going, simultaneously, but that whole energy thing was, I don't know about that.
Michael, this must have been like the first big task, it seems, when you were working on Next Generation, because I'd heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I had heard that the Cele were created kind of off site. It was another group that was doing that, but you were tasked, of course. This episode was legendarily called The Dogs and Snakes. Everybody talks about the Dogs and Snakes episode. But Michael, can you walk us through what the meeting was like, what the thinking was like? Did they just say make anything up, or did they specifically say we need dogs?
When I was hired, 3 things had already been approved before I came in. One was the Ferengi, the other was the dogs and the lizards, and there were colored mock-ups of them. And the Ferengi, I had a conversation with Gene Roddenberry, and we did change them a little bit. It was a little too busy, and using spirit gum to trying to make them hold on wasn't going to work with the design. So we changed those around a little bit. The person that did these sketches was Andy Probert, and Andy was there from the beginning, and he gave me the sketches for the dogs and the snakes, and went to work with them. Really didn't make any changes to Andy's drawings, and I have some around somewhere. I don't know where they are. It's like, cases tucked everywhere. The dogs I did at the studio. Took a cast of, it might have been Mark Alimo, the actor in one of the dog heads.
It was. I was going to ask you about that. That was actually Mark Alimo playing the main Antikin with all of those lines. And I was
Alimo?
I was thinking about you, Cirroc. I was like, I wonder if there's any possible way that Cirroc is going to recognize the way he emphasized.
Yeah, no. With Mark, that was the beginning, because that was the beginning of a long career of many aliens, and he was probably the best Cardassian ever that we did. He had perfect features for it, and with the dog, because Mark had such a long neck that everything he did, he wasn't like this here, which we had a couple like that. but he was able, gave him tremendous amount of movement and be able to do it. So we did the dog, and I had Andy's drawings, and we sculpted them in the lab there at Paramount, and I made the molds on them and ran the rubber. We had a little lab that the studio gave me some room to be able to bring my ovens in and things, and turned out, made the whole thing, and wound up painting it and adhering the hair. And there's a couple little things I'll tell you about after the snakes, but regarding the movements. With the snakes, what happened is I was the only one there in the very, very beginning. And then a man by the name of Werner Kepler came in to assist me for a couple seasons, but that was it. So I couldn't be doing dogs and snakes at the same time. So there's a lab over in North Hollywood called Makeup Effects, and they helped us out a lot over the years. It's like making electronics for us, the little antennas for the Andorians and things. I would go to them because they just had a lot of mechanical genius to add to it. So they did the snakes and did the head, the clay, and made the mold on it and approved everything. And when it came time to take the raw sculptures and they're the raw rubber that's been done to paint it and prepare it, the dogs are fine because I actually poured the rubber and did all of that. But with their snakes, that they were supposed to, 2 days before we were supposed to start shooting, they bring the 3 heads to me, and I'm expecting the same soft rubber that I've made my dogs out. And in fact, I don't remember them telling me they weren't going to do that. They were hard as a rock, and they had no flexibility to them. And we had no time to go back and run those again because they were so thick around the hood in the back that we had to go with what we had. And painting at that time too, I found called Shoe Magic, which was the spray that shoemakers do if you want to change the color of your shoes, but did not have the sophisticated setup we had later on with airbrush and all the technical things we did for painting, for shading and highlighting and everything. And I became a master at doing Shoe Magic spraying, and it's just like you'd spray it with one color and then like taking what you'd call a frisket and a piece of paper, cardboard, and be able to do shading around it and highlighting. And that's how the snakes were done. But the drawback to them, because I wanted flexibility, so there was no way they could even do this or that because this thing was like a rock on their head. And so that's the way they survived for the rest of Next Generation.
I noticed the best they could do was just kind of like lean forward. They were trying to do like
they would turn from their shoulders like that. They couldn't turn because
how much did it weigh? How much did that head weigh?
Oh, well, not much because they made them out of styrofoam. And a rigid styrofoam. Now, if it had been a flexible styrofoam, it would have been okay, but it wasn't. It was rigid. So they really were stuck in that type of a position. And so they were all painted up. The hair was laid on the dogs. But then you start looking at them, and this has gone on through my whole career, is always looking for the little details and the extra things we can add to it. So with the dogs, one of the guys that was working for me, Steve, he used to be a puppeteer. And I was saying, gee, the mouth, and we can't do anything with the mouth except to maybe do a slight thing. And Steve says, well, why don't I make a little wire basket that would fit in the mouth? And he did. He made this little thing that went in the mouth. And whenever they bit down on it, like that, the mouth would open. So the dogs could actually do this. They couldn't curl, but they still could open and close like that, which was brilliant. And then when they figured out that Mark could stick his tongue through the center of this little wire basket, like that. So I made a nose tip or a tongue tip that literally slipped over. It was hollow on the inside. It would slip over his own tongue. And so when he opened that and he stuck his tongue out, it would stick out between his teeth. And
Wow.
so it gave Mark, at least, it gave him some life. I don't remember Mark having contact lenses in his eyes, but painted him up just like a dog. And then there were areas where there were seams and not being able to cover them. And that's why wherever you see hair on the dogs, because they're bald on top. Hair
Yeah,
cover.
I mean, he has a lot of, snarl and to his face. The dog has a lot of movement.
Yeah.
You really
and
notice
that
that.
helped.
Yeah.
And with the snakes, again, of course, I died every time because we did not have the movement that would really, he would have had to have moved his head to make his body do one of these things too. So we missed out on that. But again, for the snakes, I made another tongue that was about 6 inches long. And on the end of it, it was like a snake with a little forked tongue. And on the other end was a little cup that would fit over the end of his tongue. So he could take and stick his tongue out and wiggle it. And so, since it was 6 inches long, he could pull it back in. So it looked like he was sticking his tongue out.
Wow.
But these are the things you need to make something come to life,
How much time do you get, Michael, to prepare for an episode?
Anywhere from 5 minutes to it was very fast. We shot 7 days, started a new episode. I had a giant calendar there in my office, and I had to literally keep track of when's it going to shoot and what has to be done prior to every one of those days. And I can't say we ever missed through the 18 years. There was one thing that happened on Next Generation when Q and Whoopi Goldberg were sitting at a bar, and Whoopi picks up a fork, and what they wanted to do was jab him in the back of his hand. And they asked me, I got a call. I'd gone home like at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Do I have an arm that Whoopi can have? Now, had they asked me in the afternoon or something, the answer would have been yes. No, I didn't have an arm that looked exactly like Q's arm with hair punched in it and everything. But I told him, I said, you want to shoot it tomorrow as an insert? You'll have it. So it's the only time I can ever think of where we didn't miss the boat. They missed the boat not asking. It's something that the director thought of at the last minute of Whoopi. So when you see the show in that episode, you see her going with the fork, but you never see it actually hit the hand. And they probably would have cut that out anyways at that point, whether the studio would have left that in. But otherwise, everything worked really well because I had good crews, I had good assistants over the years, and it either worked well or it was going to fall apart.
Yeah, Michael, you're the grand master of makeup in the business, and my question is, one, what got you into wanting to even do makeup, and also who was the person that inspired you, like in that department?
Well, to start with, at the beginning, my fax machine's going to go off.
Okay.
There, now. I knew where the off switch is.
Captain, incoming message.
It starts in the late 1800s, actually.
Wow.
My grandfather was a wig maker and hairdresser in the 1890s, and he was Winston Churchill's barber. And around 1906, he had salons. He packed up the family and came to basically Canada, and then traveled all the way around. And my grandmother had 18 children. So, and only 7 of them survived. He wound up in Hollywood in 1917, and my grandfather started the first makeup department in Hollywood. Following him was my dad, whose big movie that he did was Gone with the Wind. He died in 1940. Peirce, who was the head of Warner Brothers. My dad was the head of Selznick International. Peirce was the head of Warner Brothers. Ern was the head of RKO. Wally was the head of Paramount. And Bud was the head of Universal. And Uncle Frank, who never really took over a department head, but he was very close to Cecil B. DeMille and did all his pictures. And so that's where it all started. With
Wow,
that's like
the monopoly.
Yeah, that's
It's a
a who's who
monopoly.
right there.
It's a dynasty, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, didn't Wally do my grandfather? Work with my grandfather? Yeah.
Yeah. In
Because-
fact, he used to play cards with him.
Yeah, when Michael and I met, when I first was cast, we had this rare opportunity of being like, third generation in the business, and that our relative, his uncle had done my grandfather Bing's makeup when he was making all those Paramount films, and everything. So it was just really a wonderful kind of connection.
I had the chance of going over to Dorothy Lamore's house. There was a bunch of pictures called The Road. Road to Morocco, Road to Alaska, blah, blah, blah. In fact, I went with my mom, worked on Road to Alaska, where they had this huge snowstorm and everything. I used to go to work with her on Saturdays. And I got to do a commercial with Dorothy Lamore, which was interesting, because you walk in the front door of her house and there are pictures of her all around the living room in sarongs and stuff. I mean,
she was a knockout. She was in all those pictures with my grandfather.
Yes.
So she was always
it's amazing.
And Bob Hope.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. And Bob Hope. I wrote my memoirs, which were published in 2017. And I just kept coming up with one thing after the other. And the people that I've met, all the way from Elizabeth Taylor to David Bowie, it just goes on and on and on. Somebody will bring up a name. I'll go, I met them. I did that. I mean, that was her. And my whole career has been like that. Not having stayed at one studio, because I was at Universal for 11 years. And Butch Patrick from the Munsters and I are still really good friends. And
wow.
I met him a few times. What a lovely, lovely man he is.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes.
I was his idol, because I was single. I had a sports car, and he would come into my makeup room, and I'd have to put a board across the chair to be able to glue on his ear tips and put his eyebrows on and paint him gray and everything. And he used to tell me how he idolized me, and because I was just so cool. So
still are.
Still are, baby. Still are.
He was such a nice man, though. Such a nice man,
Yeah.
And
do you recall an incident that gave you the most trouble as far as like coming up with aliens that just was a big puzzle for you to try to figure out?
On Star Trek?
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
No. What I did is I had a huge library of books. I would read the script and find out what planet we're going to land on. If it was a sandy planet or a water planet, I would base my aliens on that. But I had books. I mean, I didn't want to do Star Wars and try to think of something that is fantasy. So almost I would say everything I did had some connection to Earth, which made it a lot easier on me because I could say it's an aquatic thing. Should we do turtles or shall we do blowfish or whatever? And then mix them up. Yeah, turtle with a blowfish, and the colors. You wouldn't paint the alien red, otherwise you're going to destroy the whole thing. So I kept the colors where the alien is from in the whole theme of what we were doing.
The palette of what the planet dictated.
It made life easy for me. It's like I first found that out when I was doing Michael Dorn and the Klingons, and I found a book that had cross sections of dinosaurs in it. And so I based every Klingon head I ever did, and we had about 32 of them finally in stock, on a cross section of dinosaur vertebrae.
So which dinosaur, do you remember which dinosaur you pulled from for Michael Dorn's?
I just go through the page.
Mm-hmm.
You could pick almost any one of them out, whether it was a Brontosaurus or a T-Rex or whatever.
Sagittarius,
different spines. They all had different spines. So
that is cool.
So amazing. Yeah.
I had to find a common denominator to work with, because when I took Star Trek, I called my wife, and after they said, "We want you to do it," and it was only like 2 days before, on a Thursday, and I told them I wanted to think about it and call them, and they said, "Well, you got to think fast because we're going to start doing tests on data on Monday." So I called Marion and I said, "Well, the first one only lasted a couple of years, and this is probably going to be the same." So Marion says, "Go ahead, take it. We're not going anywhere." So I accepted. And that same day, I was meeting up with Whoopi Goldberg because I had made some gums for her routine. She did Mom's Mabley, comedian, and all of a sudden we did tests on Brent, and came out with the colors and everything. And in fact, we tested, everybody's makeup. I think it was right, but we really didn't have any aliens in the first episode with Q.
Right.
It started with the Traveler, and the snakes, and the dogs, and from there it just kept adding it. And they kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I would get ideas from everywhere. There was a Thai restaurant in Studio City, California, and we were going to dinner there one night, and there was this picture store next to it, and there was a great big picture painting in the sitting in the window, and it was a picture of a woman with a spoon in the middle of her head. And
I know where this is going.
I said to Marion, I said, I'm going to use that someday. And it was a couple of years later when you finally got Mark in the chair, and I'm trying to think, what are we going to do? And we got to do something up here, And I remembered the spoon, and that's where it came from. Yeah,
I had no idea. I've never heard that Cardassians and spoonheads came from a Thai restaurant advertisement.
Yeah.
So cool.
How closely did you work with wardrobe? Because they kind of really go together. The makeup, the wardrobe.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, I have a trouble of interrupting, so if I do, just tell me to shut up. I'll do what I do. Sometimes there's some tension between wardrobe and makeup and whatever in films. I can't say or remember any time I have, especially with Bob Blackmon. Bob Blackmon and I would literally check with each other on wardrobe. I would check to see how high the sleeves were going to go, how low the neck was going to go, and he would check with me to see if he has to make a costume come up to here, or if he was going to make a big neck. And this happened with the female Cardassians, especially was a Mary Crosby, who played Armin Shimmerman's love interest. And so I had to make a throat and a plate down here that would come down low to cover it up. So Bob and I mean, there was never any question. Whatever he wanted, he got, and whatever I wanted, I got. So,
that actually makes me think of something. And we only have a couple minutes left, but real quick, Michael, speaking of Bob Blackmon, was there ever a time where you saw, the wardrobe he was going to use for an alien, and that actually inspired a change in you? It kind of got the creative juices flowing where you thought, what, maybe I'll add this, or I'll change this. Or did you ever make any changes that weren't just practical?
Well, just like that, having to lower the thing. What were we going to do? Just paint her gray? No, made a full latex sheet with the same scales we had on the rest of the head on the sheet, and maybe a few little bones sticking out of it. The same thing happened with the Borg, where any place there was exposure, and there wasn't a lot, but wherever there was, whether there was a tube attached to his face or whatever, we were covered, or if our wardrobe needed something covered up, we would cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was worked very, in fact, even with Bill Tice, when he was there only the first year or two. And it's, it's easier to work together than it is to pull the opposite way. The only times I would say you kind of pulled the opposite way was when a director came up with a concept that didn't work. And that not only didn't work with me, it didn't work with the actor. So, directors sometimes would come in and tell Brent what they wanted to do, but it wasn't Data. And Brent would go to him and say, Data wouldn't do this type of thing. And so, I had a director on one of the movies that wanted to change the Vulcan's color to gray. And I literally had to go to Berman and say, this ain't gonna work, so I'll take care of it, and he did.
And so, Michael, also, quickly about the sketches, did they also include the hands, or is that something that you made up like on the fly?
The sketches for the dogs and lizards and the snakes, they were in there. They were in there because, and again, the dogs kind of they weren't full paws because they had fingers on them. And the snakes were mainly like dragon with longer fingers and scaly and matching colors. Over the years, what we did for a lot of the characters was to make a back of the hand. And all they would do is have to glue that on, and we made fingertips, and I had all kinds of fingernails and everything. I had an array of stuff that was been collected over the years. That's why they could all of a sudden bring somebody in, and we could put them together pretty fast. And I hired people that had the ability. I had my A, B, and C makeup artists that I know that could do certain things that I could just literally throw it to them. Man by the name of Brad Look and Scott Wheeler and people, where I could just say, here's the stuff, put it on, and I'll see you when you start painting. And it's just, I want to say it was another whole career. And it's a career for me that I still love and I'm still involved with. I used to go to conventions and I missed a lot of nice things that Star Trek did in the last couple of years. Because of COVID. I wasn't going to go and sit, and breathe, especially if people aren't going to wear masks at all, which was interesting at the Golden Globes. People's Choice Awards were afterwards, and so many people had come down with COVID after the Golden Globes. They didn't show up for the People's Choice, and they had been hired to give out awards and receiving awards, and they couldn't go because they were sick. So it's all a chance with that.
Yeah. Well, Michael, this has been so amazing, and we really, really hope you will consider coming back and joining us.
Oh, I've already considered. Are you kidding?
Oh, what a relief. It feels like we have so many more questions for you and so many more episodes to inspire those questions. But we really appreciate you taking the time out today. Really cool of you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
All right, everybody.
You, lady.
Oh, so good to see you. So good. Especially having just watched these episodes and just how unbelievable you made us look. How just so beautiful. So beautiful. Well, thank you, because it will live on long after I'm gone, my darling. Long after. We'll still. And
also let me add also, Michael, that you're such a classy gentleman, and you handle yourself like working with you is such a pleasure. Your patience, your temperament. You are a class act to work with, and beyond your skills as a makeup artist, who you are as a human being and the person has been exemplary. So thank you for that too.
Oh my God. I absolutely, Cirroc. I'm so glad you brought that up, because again, for those of you watching and listening who, aren't actors, your day starts there. Your day begins in the makeup trailer. So the mood is set, the tone, the vibe, the anxiety, the everything, begins there. And you need to have a calming, kind presence to begin your day and to feel safe, and so that you can create what you're there to do. And Mr. Westmore, you just exemplify that. You are so A+ in that regard, and you always made me feel good when I came.
Yes.
I made it a point to literally meet everybody coming in, at least in the very beginning, to do that, because I wanted to know them, and if they needed something. I don't think we really had any problems. I had one problem where some young actor didn't want to wear appliances, and he quit. I helped him. But
Yeah.
it's
If
just
only
on Star Trek. Star Trek
Yeah.
was just, I want to say it was a joy. One of those things you do for free. It was so much fun.
You can say that now, but
Yeah.
I hope you didn't say that 30 years ago.
No, but I have to just say that the person behind me my entire career was my wife Marion, is my wife Marion, and we will have been married 58 years this year.
Wow.
We met on the tour at Universal, and she was Edith Head's model at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The history you got, man, is legendary.
Legends.
Yeah.
This is
Right?
generational history, like
I
passed
know.
down.
God.
It's amazing.
And by the way, Michael, you've been in makeup, doing makeup professionally for 60 years.
Yep. More. Actually, I started in 61.
Wow.
And I continued to do
goodness.
it after Star Trek finished.
Hmm.
I did an Indian film, East Indian, for 2 years, where the main character played 10 different characters in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and of course now your kids are doing makeup, right?
No, Mackenzie's an actress.
Okay.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael was.
Michael was an editor on Deep
Okay.
Space Nine. And when we wrapped up, I gave him about 2.5 gallons of glue that I had left over. He redesigned it, and now he sells that glue all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he sells hair dyes all over the world. And,
Wow.
And my other daughter, the one that has the
Huh?
brain problem, she is involved in an entertainment management firm. She's married to the president. So
That's a little involved.
Wow.
she was a secretary when it started.
Oh, I found
Wow.
the original sketch here that was actually used, one that you based your character off of. Here it is. See?
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Good job, Cirroc. Nailed it.
Wow.
That's my crappy drawing there, Michael.
Excellent. And on that note, everybody at home, stick around. We've got much more to discuss. And we're really looking forward to the next time seeing you on the show, Mr. Michael Westmore. Thank you so much. Everybody, stick around. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and the angelic Denise Crosby.
Yeah.
I said angelic, and she looked, she's like, well, there's nobody else here. He must mean me.
Yeah.
Let's hop into those trivioids of the week very quickly. The Antikins and the Soleil are both from the Beta Renner system. The Soleil must be upwind from the Antikins because they stink, I guess. Captain Picard wants his junior officers to learn. Picard loves a mystery. Wesley's physical sciences class is studying Dr. Channing's theory on dilithium crystals. What does helm control have to do with medical cross-checks? Transporter room 6 has a transporter console malfunction. Counselor Troy hypnotizes Dr. Crusher. Captain Picard acts totally chill when he gets zapped. Picard orders medical and psychiatric exams for his senior staff. And lastly, one of the cooks has been asked to broil reptile for the Antikins, and it looks like the Cele delegate. All right. That was a lot of stuff in there. A lot of humor. I again had that feeling, Denise, when I watched this episode of there's definitely a role that you fill in this thing, and I'm dreading. I don't know. I just find myself picturing what the show would have been like had you been there. And that moment for this episode was when Data concluded something towards the end, right? And I had not noticed this, and I wonder if they played up on this or you're privy to it. It looked like you gave him a very loving, a very proud, a very friendly look when he concluded it must be this or that, and he came to, answer whatever the mystery was. And I wonder what the direction of the writing was. Did they tell you that there was going to be more between you and Data moving forward, possibly, or was there something there?
No, there was never any mention of, a development, further development of this relationship. I think, we're trying to always humanize, these people, and at least I certainly was thinking along those lines, that the past informs the present. So if, Tasha and Data, we've already seen the naked now, there is something between us. So whenever I could find, moments to clarify that or grab onto something like that, that was there.
Okay. Yeah. Cause they really cut to you. It wasn't like in a group. It was like, how does Data or how does Tasha feel about this? And it was such a nice little moment, whether it's pride or friendly or that's my guy. I was just like,
Right.
Man, I would have loved to see if there was something that they were building towards.
Right. Yeah. I think that, nobody knew much at this point, at this stage of the game. They were kind of sorting through, feeling everything out. What direction is this going? Again, trying to lock in writers that could really have this solid vision of what the show was. Again, we were sort of off on the side. Nobody was really paying much attention. The studio, we're at Paramount, but we're kind of like not at Paramount, like nobody's really paying much attention. It had a very, very, trying to gain ground. Even, Michael Westmore said, when this thing's not going to last, well, let's take the job. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I've heard different variations of that, from a number of different people. I don't know if somebody mentioned something to me the other day about Patrick, that he didn't even unpack his bags or something, for the first year.
That's so Patrick.
Yeah, it's a large thing that you are up against is that there's no standard essentially to measure this show up against, right? Except for the other Star Trek that preceded it. It's such a niche, it's such its own lane, that it's not a law show, it's not a cop show, it's not, a soap opera. It's its own lane, that I would see why there's uncertainty about the, whether it's going to be successful or not.
Right.
And it almost seems, yeah.
It does have to come to a conclusion. It is like, we're not taking a season to unfold this whole story. Right. And so it becomes almost like a procedural, in the sense it's got to come to a conclusion at each end. So it's very, very difficult to, I think that, again, that first year was really struggling in the writer's room.
I think so. But it seems like when I watched these episodes, these early episodes, Next Generation, that there is they're close. They're hovering close to what they want to accomplish.
I felt that in this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. It felt like, okay, they're making a point, they're making a statement, but I don't know quite what it is yet. And that's how I felt watching it. I was like, is this about the Antikins versus
Saleh.
Is this, yeah, the Soleil, or is this about that? Is this, they mention, oh, they have strong hatred of customs and God concepts and economic systems. Is this about to be a critique on our God customs,
Mhm.
our economic systems? I thought that that's what we were about to unpack in this episode, and it strayed away from that a little bit. And so I
Mhm.
feel like they, went to the whole energy, the concept of this nebula and this energy. And it just felt like they want to say a lot more important and relevant things, but they just don't quite have it mastered yet at this
Yeah.
early stage.
You know what I
That's
was
a really good
thinking?
point.
Yeah, I was thinking actually along those lines that we've seen so many episodes on Star Trek and other shows where it's this alien and this alien on your ship, and you got to keep them at bay, and you got to get a peace treaty, or we've seen it on Deep Space Nine, a bunch of things. And I thought that's where the direction this episode was going. And Denise, you touched on it a little bit before we recorded, but it almost felt like that energy thing didn't need to be there. It felt like
Right.
they could have just expanded on the Antikins and the Saleh and just built an entire episode on that. And they have built many episodes like that, and it felt like it was going to go that direction, but it didn't. I didn't need the zapping stuff. And I
No,
feel like that might be a lack, like you guys are saying, maybe a lack of confidence in the writing, like where they're trying to put everything in when really they had something really good going here.
I couldn't agree more. And
Mm.
as we're talking about it, I really see it, very clearly that it's a far more compelling story. The Antikins and the Sele.
Yeah.
How do we come to, how do we be together? How do we occupy this space with such animosity, between us? And you're headed to this beautiful, peace treaty meeting at Parliament, and it's going to try to, fix this, try to unravel this. But in the meantime, what can we do? As part of the Federation to kind of enhance this or break through in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it do to us? This kind of antagonistic energy, this hatred on board our ship, by these two alien races that, we can't get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the prime directive, but what is it doing? There's so many levels and variations, and the energy, I don't get what it did.
Yeah, I was expecting Picard and the crew to be the negotiator between these two species, and they both talk about their cultural, what their cultures represent, and it is Federation's job to find the bridge between these diametrically opposed points of views, right? I eat meat and I'm a vegetarian, or I'm this and I'm that.
I eat Sele and they want to live.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I thought there was an opportunity there to explore cultural differences, to talk about how cultural differences separate us or make us different, but also talk about the bridge that we can build to have a coexistence. And I felt like they started to go there, and then they said, well, what about this energy thing? And the energy thing reminded me a lot of the episode prior, where they were stuck in that warp drive kind of hyper beyond warp speed thing.
Yeah.
And Will Wheaton had to work on the board and
save the
day. Problem. He had to save the day. And they kind of almost redid that same story a little bit with this.
You know what and I could be way off because I'm just guessing from 35 years later. It felt as though they had the energy idea first, and they built a story around that. And they said, well, we can't just have an energy thing happening. We need a B plot. We need something to be going on. Okay, let's say that they're on a mission. They got these two aliens and they're taking these. Okay, so it felt like they were added to this story to give them something to do rather than the other way around, which was, you could have even included the energy thing But if you had focused, if they started with this story and then the energy thing just raises the stakes a bit to that story instead of this.
And they weren't related. That's the other
them.
thing. I thought the energy thing would be related to the presence of these two aliens on the ship. And there was no correlation there. So that was another kind of letdown for me. The other thing that story-wise was difficult for me to follow was how the energy thing affected each person differently. I didn't see what it does. Like, okay, does it bring out this kind of emotion in you?
Right.
Does it make you a zombie? Like, what does it? The
Crusher
energy
was
do
like
after-
Crusher was like catatonic, whereas Picard was super chill. He was like in sandal and flip flops, and
the other guy
shorts.
died.
And another guy died.
Right. That's right.
He couldn't hang.
That's right. And Worf got, violent. Remember he threw the one medic, across the room. And
so what does it do? Like, what does the energy bring out of a person, or how does it?
Maybe it releases their inhibitions. It's like Worf wants to be violent. Picard wants to be chill. Mr. Singh, I guess, wants to be dead. I don't know.
Crusher starts to mess with the helm. The helm. It's like it's so disconnected story-wise for me, because then when the thing leaves her body, which I don't know when or how it leaves her, but she's suddenly now back to normal.
Right.
You would think, as a doctor, being aware of, like, first of all, what am I doing here? And then she doesn't remember anything her son mentions. You might start to just stop everything right then and there and go, okay, something obviously is really wrong. But I just, there's no self-awareness of it, or I don't know. And it really took a dive, I think, in that they're just like too lobbed on. It's glommed on the story.
But then it took a spike up when we got the return of Chief O'Brien. Finally, we had to wait 6 episodes, but he came back. And our good friend Eve England out in Wales, who will not be at the free-for-all a little later, she said to translate this into the lore of Deep Space Nine, this was the very first O'Brien Must Suffer episode, because Deep Space Nine always has O'Brien Must Suffer episodes, and he had to deal with these guys. But one thing I did want to bring up too, because I freaking loved it, and I don't remember this at all. I don't remember Data getting into Sherlock Holmes this early on in the series, and he was cracking me up the way he's sticking the pipe in his mouth and doing all that.
That was actually a good takeaway for me. I enjoyed his little comic relief in this episode as Sherlock Holmes. My favorite line actually was when he says, "It's elementary, my dear Riker, sir."
It sets it up right there,
So that was fun. Actually, he was fun. I didn't necessarily, I had a problem with Counselor Troy not recognizing that Crusher was not in the right state of mind when she walks in on her and Worf kind of, doing their thing. I felt like if she was such a Betazoid and so in tune with somebody's aura and spirit, that she would sense right away and then report it, like, oh, something's not right here, because she was acting really aloof at that time.
That's true. They mentioned something at the beginning of the episode, but not much after that. I wonder if she'd be able to sense, like, she'd be like, you guys can't tell that Picard's not being himself? Let me step in and point that out.
I know. The other thing too, again, we see Wesley, kind of working things through. He's the one coming up with the answers for the warp and drive and the systems down. And again, go back to your school room, Wesley, go back to school. And it's like, you go, no, you know more than anyone else on the ship.
Yeah, it's a weird diametric there, because like, go back to school, but I just taught you what was wrong with the system. So I'm the teacher. What do you mean, school?
Right.
It's like, go back to school. But first, how did you do that thing? What was that?
Yeah.
Can you just show me real quick? It's for your teacher.
Just log in with your password and I'll do from there.
Let me move away. You sit down, Wesley.
Yeah.
And how does he know Wesley's school schedule? He's like, you're scheduled to be in. What are you
Exactly.
snooping on his?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not Wesley's fault, because I really like him, and his sweater game is right up there with Bill Cosby.
Nuts. Yes,
are tied for the best sweaters in television. But no, it's not his fault. It's just that they keep making him unbelievably smart. I understand smart, where this kid's protege, he gets a lot of things, but this guy is smarter than the chief engineer
He's smarter than anyone on the ship. Let's just face it.
Yeah.
The guy knows the answers to. We've seen every episode. He goes in and well, maybe if you do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, we fixed it.
Right.
That fixes it.
He like looms over their back
much.
And just goes, "Oh, you don't know? Yeah, you just gotta do this thing right here. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And
I know
it's over the top a little bit, and it's done too frequently. It's okay if it happens every once in a while. He saves the day. That's fine. Data's going to save the day one day, and somebody else going to save the day one other day. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But every episode, bring the boy in, and the boy's got
to. Somebody get me the boy. We need.
Well, and he was sitting in Data's, station. Too. I thought when everybody comes back in, I thought, wow.
That's my seat, kid.
Well, or wait a minute, that was pretty, going
fast.
Forward here. That was fast. I don't know that they would allow him to do that.
He made Captain from Ensign in 3 episodes.
Yeah. This guy is moving up faster than Captain Kirk in the 2009 JJ movies. But I got good news, everybody. It's time for the home run of the day.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll go first. Go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to buy you guys some time. I think the home run of the day for me might have been Geordi, because he delivered a very funny line that I don't know if it was really written that funny, but one of the things I like about LeVar Burton's portrayal of Geordi is how unbelievably good he is at delivering lines without seeing his eyes, which is the toughest thing to do. Aliens, you can have all the makeup in the world, as long as they have their eyes, they're okay. He does it without his eyes. And when Beverly says, "This is the helm," and he says, "Unless there have been some changes I don't know about," and he just added a little bit of LeVar in there that just was like, it was perfect for me. It was cute. It was funny. It made me laugh. That's the home run of the day for me. LeVar.
I like that. And I did like the way he delivered that line with his eyes tied behind his back. But I'm going to say that the home run for me in this is the makeup job and Michael Westmore. And did I take your answer?
You took it from me. You took it.
I had a feeling.
We can share it.
We'll share it. Because I think, that stands out to me. It's like I spent time drawing the characters. I did a lot of freeze framing in this just to, see details and check different angles out. And the challenge for me that Michael Westmore has to constantly create something new that we've never seen before and make it look real, make it look presentable. It's just, and then withstand the test of scrutiny over this amount of time, over 40 years of scrutiny, just looking at it and, to set the gold standard as far as aliens on television. So I would say that that's what stood out to me the most. And it actually made me want more from these characters. That's where I feel like the writing didn't supplement the great makeup job that he did.
He
Right.
doesn't just want more, he wants Westmore.
Westmore.
Sorry.
Wow. Wow.
What about you, Denise?
Well, I as I was saying, I too think that Michael Westmore gets the home run for this one. He did this every week without fail, without raising a voice, without losing his cool, with grace, with professionalism. I mean, and with incredible talent. And he just is like how you want to be on a set. Do your work, let everyone do their work, and not create a healthy environment to create in. And he time and time again, he's just extraordinary that way, and so good at what he does. So these, I remember having so much fun with when I went in with the Antikins, and I have that scene, and I kind of snarl. I remember I make a little snarl because he's snarling at me, and it was just it was just really fun. The one other thing I wanted to mention that I loved was when the delegation, when it's Captain Picard and Riker and I go to meet the.
I was just going to say that.
We're in those fabulous
the dress
outfits.
Uniforms. We got our first glimpse of the dress uniforms. They looked amazing.
I don't remember if we wear those again, but how
very rarely.
I thought
with the gold trim. They look really sharp with the gold trim.
They really did. They really did. I loved that.
We'll talk about that a little bit more on the free-for-all. I'll tell you who else has a gold trim. Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey, Bill Victor Arucan, our good buddy Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, who's got something for us on the other side, by the way, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Mai live from Tokyo, Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Jed Thompson, Amy Renee Haynes, Sean Mouch, and Marcia Classic Schreier, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. We'll see you on the other side. Stick around for the free-for-all. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the free-for-all. We are joined, of course, by Melissa Longo. We've got Dr. Susan V. Gruner here. Justin Weir wearing a Radical Chat Pack shirt. And Dr. Marie Segal looking like she's in the what is the place with the Superman?
Fortress of Solitude.
Thank you, Mohamed.
This is my Ferengi ship.
Dr. Mohamed Noor is here as well, of course. Goldu Scott Jensen singing Purple Rain in his head. Matt Boardman is also here making radical graphics. Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy actually is matching backgrounds with Melissa. Mai is live in Tokyo. Really cool background there too. I don't know what it is.
That's a nebula. That's the nebula.
That's the energy field.
The part that I kind of tuned out.
She's in the cloud.
Jed Thompson is here hanging out wearing a Aaron Eisenberg special. Chris McGee is also here. Oh, that's Nebula behind him for sure too. And Carrie Schwent is here. She's got something for us to start with. So we're going to go just dive in. It's a box.
The deep dive.
Cube. I pre-cut it though, because you never know with these things.
I used a lot of tape.
No porch pirates this time.
Oh, something rolled up.
Should we open this too?
You can,
or should I open this?
You can save that. You can save that for later.
Okay.
Yeah, open that.
Hey, you got some red tissue paper.
The glitter bomb. An electric alien.
Still in-
That
Good
would be
knowledge. We
Oh,
got some big league chew.
That's a good gun right there.
I haven't
Oh
seen
my
that in a long
gosh.
time.
Is this what
It's going to make a
think it
bunch of
is?
sense in a
Is
second.
this a gigantic jawbreaker? Oh no. I
Yes.
thought it was a giant jawbreaker. It's kind of
What
like
is
in
that?
First Contact when the Borg cube was going to blow up and then the ball like shoots out of it, remember? I don't know what this is, truth be told. It's beautifully wrapped though.
The yo-yo.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Oh.
It's a seventh rule baseball.
Nice.
That's
Damn.
And
That's a heck of a
shiny as
jawbreaker,
hell.
all right.
That'll break it.
That's beautiful.
That is
Yeah, that's
And
incredible.
look at the other side of the baseball. There's something written on it.
It is so cool.
Oh, upside down.
Oh,
It says the
Nice.
home run
the home run of the,
of the episode. Wow,
Oh,
look at
yeah.
this.
That's gorgeous.
This is A plus.
Very nice. Nice.
Carrie, thank
Wow.
you.
Started
Nice.
watching the TNG episodes and saw you hold up the baseball, and I
Love
said,
that.
nope, he needs something special.
Yeah, this one's kind of squishy. This is amazing. Thank you, Carrie. This is great.
You
No,
guys-
is that the
What
song
is that,
Walk Past
Velvet?
The Big League Chew and had to get you
I
some.
love the big league chew. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many packets have been
Me
through my
too.
household. Oh yeah.
That's good knowledge.
My son chewed
Yeah.
that stuff up real good.
We'll share with
Yeah.
everybody.
I know I want some.
Yay.
All right. Well, thanks,
One
Carrie. That was
strip.
really cool. Really appreciate
That's
it.
Yeah.
awesome.
Our
That is so
production
cool.
value is going through the roof as of next week. Here it comes.
Yeah.
All right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Oh. I'm gonna say this was a 6.9.
Anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know?
I'll agree with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It is the height that Cirroc and Doug Jones both lie and say that they are when everybody knows they're actually 6'4". It's a 6'3",
It's 6.3.
which is a little low.
Wow.
You guys catch the Cirroc? You mentioned it. Did you catch the non-appearance mention of the day?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a stab at it. Was it the Ferengi?
That was a good one though,
I
but
thought about it though.
it's a good one. I put down their chief engineer.
Yep. Chief Engineer Argyle.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Oh,
Very good. Very good.
Argyle.
But the Ferengi, I thought about
Argyle.
that one too. I was like, is that? It's not
It's-
one.
No,
It's not
confusing.
specific enough.
Wait a minute.
No.
Sorry.
It's
Homer
not.
is the guy that. Go ahead.
Yeah, he'll
Homer.
determine.
you are correct. It is not specific enough.
Chief Engineer Argyle's okay.
Yeah.
Did they say Argyle?
Yeah.
Yes.
They did.
Yes, they did.
Oh, then yes. Count it.
Yeah. What system were these aliens from? The Beta something?
Yeah, Renner. The Beta Renner system.
Beta Redder?
Renner. Like Jeremy Renner.
Like Jeremy. Oh, that's where Jeremy's from.
Yeah.
Our
We
thoughts
can't
go out
make-
to Jeremy Renner, who's having.
I know we can't
Yeah.
make Jeremy jokes right now. The poor
He's
guy.
in good spirits. 49er fan,
Yeah.
by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
My easy. All right, Melissa.
What's that flushing sound? Oh no!
Too soon. It's too soon. It's still tender. Those ones are still tender.
Melissa, can you get us back on track, please? What do you think of this episode?
Right. There was some memorable moments in this episode. What one I have to point out is in this scene, what struck me was the console that they were working on, not where he's getting zapped, but that the center part was really kind of stunning looking. I was like, wow, that's so snazzy. But also the line that jumped out at me in this scene when Worf was replying to Geordi, and he said, "Simple. Our captain wants us to learn, learn, learn." I was like, okay, that's fun. And then another line that that jumped out at me was Riker's line where he says, "We no longer enslave animals for food purposes." And I was like, yes. You know, many of you know I'm a vegetarian and I'm not pushing anything, but you know,
I'll
that's
push
awesome.
that.
But
Yeah,
That's
let me
awesome.
ask you, was he telling us truthfully what they're eating in those replomats? Because we found out later what really those replomats are made out of, right? What the food is made
Poo.
Oh,
Right.
49ers.
of. Right.
Yeah, the dig.
Oh no.
But how progressive is that? You know, in a
Yeah.
way, they're writing that 35 years ago when, you know, climate change wasn't, you know, a topic, at least not as to most. And, you know, what they were sort
Even
of
just being humane with
foreshadowing.
animals in general was
Right.
You know, they were injecting animals with RSPT or SPT, whatever that thing is, and all kinds of injections of steroids and growth hormones in our foods. So yeah, for them to be like that far ahead,
that was
pretty amazing.
kind of cool.
I that my ears perked up and I was like, oh,
Me
that's
too.
so awesome.
But Melissa, you weren't shocked by Worf's electric shock face when he was like, when his lip was curling up. I was like, what is this?
That was going to be the things left unsaid segment.
The twitching lip.
That's true. We'll come back to that in the next segment because that was definitely a thing.
Yeah, and just one more thing. I really liked Mr. Singh, and I'm sad that he's the only one who died in this episode. I thought they could have continued him. No. Yes, mega
death.
Yes.
Good stuff. Thanks, Melissa. Dr. Mohamed Noor has the best electric shock face. What do you think of this episode?
Not sure about that part, but this was one actually I didn't even remember seeing before. I was watching like, I must have seen it when it first came out, but I don't think I've seen it since that time. Just two thoughts. One was the part where Picard was reintegrated back, but they said that they reintegrated using his pattern, so he didn't have his memory. So again, it always begs the question, comes up in all of Star Trek, like, can't they just like duplicate people over and over again? Or essentially, what is it they're putting back to make him that isn't just already in like the computer files? So I don't know. Just it was an interesting philosophical question. I know this always comes up in the context of like, are you really the same person after you beam back and things like that. The other one, which was kind of fun, and I just read this in the Star Trek Companion. I didn't realize this, but this is Mark Alimo.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I was like, oh.
Who didn't want his name in the credits?
What?
Yeah. Well, Mohamed, if you don't know the answer to that transporter question, none of us have a chance. We're looking to you for this. Well, Dr. Marie Segal is also here. She also didn't want her credits in this episode. What's up? You like it?
What a change of heart. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I just love all these early episodes. They feel like going home. I love TNG so much. Just every line is just so special. Even the cheesy lines and like everything Worf says is just comedic gold. I love it.
What was the cheesiest line?
I mean, the learn. That's so silly.
Yeah.
I just love it all. Every rewatch is better and better.
Great. What about you, Justin Weir, aka Shag 840?
Hello. I really like this episode. This might be my favorite one so far since Code of Honor. Just kidding. I wrote down what Mohamed was talking about, and I was thinking like, because they were talking about if Picard didn't make it back to the transporter, his energy. I was thinking if they just got his body, but Picard didn't make it, would the body just collapse like there's no soul in it? So that's my thought on that. One of the reasons why I like this episode is because we get this scenario and it seems like one story. There doesn't seem like an A plot, B plot, because as soon as stuff starts happening, you're like, it's these guys. It has to be these aliens. And then Data schools everybody in a Sherlock Holmes style, and you're like, oh, there is an A plot and a B plot that are completely separate. So I like that. I wrote down a lot, so I'll just keep it at that for now.
For now. There's more coming though. Great stuff. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
Dr. Susan V. Gruner also was like, this episode and Code of Honor neck and neck, but what do you think of this one?
I really like this episode because I think it's really the first one where the characters are really starting to interact with each other and we're starting to get to know them. My favorite part of this episode was when Picard put his feet up on the desk when that alien was inside him. I love little details like that. But yeah, it's starting to get a little warm and fuzzy. We're starting to get to know them. And that's why I did enjoy this episode. And I had forgotten about it until today.
You and me
I knew about Mark Alamo because Eve texted me, and I'll say, and I was surprised to see security guard number 1, and I'll save the rest for what's left unsaid.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you, Sue. Mai is live in Tokyo. What's up, Mai? What's new? No football talk, please. Let's just stick with this room is still open.
No, this episode was no fourth quarterback, I'll tell you that. So apologies.
My arm hurts now.
I got it. I'm going to disagree with Justin, but in a nice way, because I think two subplots, the Cobra Kai versus the parietal poodles, and then the energy cloud beings. I don't know. If I were the writer's English language and English instructor in school, I would have sent it back with a big, R/W at the top for rewrite. I don't think we needed the alien delegations at all. I think they could have focused and expanded on the energy being thing. I would have liked to see that a lot more. There was a lot to chew on there. One strange thing happened during this episode when Riker's like, well, these delegations could have been affected by the Ferengi. I got to call it the Armin effect, the Nog effect. I don't know what you want to call it, but I felt really defensive of the Ferengi all of a sudden. That was just rude, I thought. That was an interesting thing. You're busting on my people, man. That's not cool at all. So there was that. And then at the end, towards the end, there was that scene where Geordi was, where they were all talking about whether they should, take the captain out of it. And Geordi had his arms crossed. Hang on. I got a screenshot of this. Geordi's like, well, there's going to be beaucoup trouble if we're wrong. And I thought, wow. I don't know about you guys, but what I heard was this. Beaucoup trouble, dude.
Totally. Very good.
That's great.
Beaucoup.
Oh my God.
So I returned the screen to you, Ryan.
Was the word beaucoup in here?
Well,
I missed that.
Yeah, beaucoup is there.
Yeah, so beaucoup trouble.
Yeah, and 5 years earlier, Spicoli had come out with it. So
how did they make that past the
jumped at that.
supervisor?
Me too.
Yeah, that's really dated. Beaucoup.
All right. Great stuff there, Mai. Oh, you had beaucoup stuff there, and we loved it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I jumped at that too, Denise. I was like, where are they going with that? Homer Freezy is out somewhere in New Yeezy. What's up, Homer?
Hi there. I'm not going to talk football. So I'll just, yeah. Fly Eagles. Okay. So I had a big problem with, there was more than one death in this episode. I mean, Singh, okay, yes, that was not good. And then you have one of the dogs, I think, killing one of the snakes and putting them in a pot or something. And I just thought there was this callous disregard for people or future Federation members, perhaps, sentient beings getting killed, or they're doing killing. And I was like, what is going on? And the only thing that makes me kind of like accept it, like that, it's almost used as a joke at the end, is that, okay, wait a second, it's all about the Prime Directive. So they're not going to interfere. If one of the dogs wants to have a snake for dinner, okay, it's on our ship, whatever, it's neutral territory, I don't know. And then if one sort of shocking guy wants to take out our assistant chief engineer, I understand, it's all right. I'm trying to make peace, we're trying to explore. But man, I had a tough time until I came up with the Prime Directive, because I don't know why else that would happen. That's it from here, unless you want me to talk more about football.
Moving on. Thanks, Homer. What's up, Matt Boardman? Looks like you're wearing a really cool sweatshirt from Walking Art made by Melissa, actually.
Yeah.
That's rule.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you don't have one, you should get one. They are fantastic. Great quality. Both the shirts and the sweatshirts. So I totally dig it.
And the show?
Yeah, and the show, yeah. That's what we're talking about. And now back to these messages. No, this is always a fun episode. There are there's some very cheeky moments in it. But I also like the fact that, again, we're seeing more of that cohesiveness of the crew coming together. I liked when they all kind of felt like Picard there's something wrong about Picard, and they all met together and to discuss this. And they're like, okay, this is some serious implications if we, because we're borderline mutiny here if we, if we're wrong about this. So I thought that was really great. And the one moment that I always think is fantastic is right before the credits there, when Picard comes back and all of a sudden Tasha comes busting in, and they're like, we've got this problem, and Picard's like, I think I'm just gonna kind of go this way here and let you deal with it, and just kind of wash my hands. I don't know why, but I always thought that's great, passing the buck there. Yeah, I think those are the things. Oh, and the other thing I thought was kind of interesting was that at this point, Worf is still a junior officer, because that's one of the things when they're in that sensor control room there that he says to Geordi is that Captain Picard expects all of his junior officers to learn. So.
Yep, great stuff. Just like that song, to everything. Learn. Goldie Scott Jensen's here. Say, don't worry, I'm gonna cut that out. Thank you, Mai. That was smart. That joke was for the birds. You're right. Good stuff. What's up, Goldie Scott?
And everybody's on it tonight. I don't know if I can keep up with you guys. This was an excellent bottle episode, I felt like, but the things that stood out to me the most was how much fun I was having the whole time, and the makeup jobs on these two aliens, the Antikins and the Celis, I think it was, the snakes and the aforementioned dogs. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And my favorite interactions with them were the two Natasha Yar parts, where the disgust on the face when they were talking about eating other people or whatever, like that. And then later on, the same look of disgust when Data was just like hotboxing the whole room with the pipe. And also, I don't think I have ever seen a living being on all the Star Trek so enthusiastically just surprised and happy as when Data found out about Sherlock Holmes. It's just like the whole universe opened wide to him. And that's fun because I know spoilies, but we'll probably see a little bit more of that. But yeah, I definitely love this. Definitely love this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was we didn't mention that earlier, Denise, was this move, and your reaction was great.
Yeah, you start. You really see some more other indications of who Tasha is. In this episode, her reactions, her impulsiveness when she comes running in at the end. And Riker says, "You don't think this could wait? I mean, the captain is here," and she just goes, "But oh yeah, hi, Captain." Like she just has this kind of she's coming alive, in this. And of course, there's no guys hitting on her in this episode. So
must have just gotten cut out.
There is one. There was one look from the dog. A dog.
Yeah, the dog kind of looked at you.
I wrote that
The dog
down.
kind of went like.
You're
He
right.
growled at you, yeah.
And I thought, there it is. They got it. They got
here
it.
we go again.
They got to do it. They got to find something, some alien, something to get a little love growl in there towards old Tasha Yar.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it too.
Love growl indeed. Well, everybody, you know who's probably next here. It's obviously Carrie Schwent. What's up, Carrie? Thanks for the goodies. What'd you think of this episode?
This one is fun, and Data is definitely an example of all of us who get told about one thing or another and falling down that rabbit hole and just becoming completely obsessed and one thing after another and just really enjoying it. And yeah, I've got a couple things. I'll quick do my limerick. I went for this one from the perspective of the energy being. This is their haiku or limerick, sorry. I am just an energy being in space who suddenly gets ripped out of place. I go from body to body, leave behind a memory that's spotty. I only want to get back to my mates. Yeah, that was kind of a I couldn't decide which A or B plot to focus on, so I thought, you know what, let's do it from the energy being's perspective. And and Q has something he wants to point out in regards to poor Mr. Singh when he falls down and the camera is looking at him. His eyes are open. In the very next shot, when Worf comes up to him, his eyes are closed.
Good catch.
But I don't know. I love spotting. I love spotting stuff like that.
It sounds like buku eye movements to me.
And poor Beverly's assistant that gets thrown by Worf. They're carrying him out. She basically ignores him.
Yes.
Quick little, "Are you okay?" Doesn't even look at him.
And he doesn't respond either. Because he can't
even get a line.
Because he's mad at her. He's like, "You don't care."
Just a quick, "Are you okay?" And no, I'm not even going to look at you when I say it. I'm too busy with poor Worf and quality growl on Worf. That growl makes me smile every time I hear it. I've got a couple other things, but we'll save those for later.
Stay tuned, everybody. Good stuff. Chris McGee, what's up? Cool graphic. I guess, what is that, a GIF behind you?
It's actually a loop of the actual video itself. I got playing on another screen over here.
Awesome.
I had to kind of cobble it together. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I remember it greatly from first time that I watched it back in the 1990s. And I will say, even though the B plot with the delegates was largely forgettable, the makeup was incredible in it. And so definitely props to Michael Westmore on that. And I did find it interesting. The Antikins never sit on the furniture. I guess that was I don't know whose choice that was, but I thought that was quite interesting that we would always sit on the floor rather than the furniture they were provided with. And I love to see that we got a new set.
Because you can't have
built.
a dog sitting on the couch, you know?
Oh, very
I
good.
should say something like that, but okay, now I know where the boundaries lie. Thank you. And I love to see we see a new set built for sensor maintenance, and then we'll never see it again. And then, of course, the non-appearance mention you already mentioned, and everyone has already mentioned the phrase of the episode. Melissa and Matt brought that up, so I'll just leave you with this wonderful image taken from Memory Alpha, behind the scenes photo of the actors playing the Soleil, and they look like they're about to drop the hottest album of 1987.
Soleil.
Wow.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to hold that up for another second.
It's like Victoria's Secret.
That's funny.
This holiday season,
it really sure is. I've seen that corner of the store.
Daft Punk of 1988 or whatever year it was.
Yeah.
Into the Blue Man Group.
But I'll tell you who the Daft Punk of 2023 is. It's, of course, Jed Thompson. What's up, Jed? What do you think of this episode?
It was it's not my favorite. It's not the worst. It's not my favorite. The writing just got to me, and I felt like it was what I like about it is that it's a real good, real bad B movie. For me, it's just, and I know that DC Fontana is the writer, and you get that real sense of the original series. I feel like that really came through in the writing, and I have to imagine that as an actor, this is kind of for Denise and Cirroc here, a little bit of a question here, especially as a regular. Do you have ability to give feedback on lines or scripts at all? If you're presented with something and you have an idea.
A little bit.
I mean, it was a pure curiosity for me, because I just felt that
not on the scripts though. Yeah, not on the script so much. Maybe on lines, if you don't feel like your character will say something and it just doesn't feel comfortable coming out of your mouth, then you can maybe make some adjustments to the lines, but definitely not the script. They're not. I can't say, hey, I don't like these alien things, guys. Can it be something else?
Well,
yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
That's again, this first year, we did something that was abandoned in future seasons, which was we would do a lunchtime table read of each script. So that's when things could be asked questions, or if you didn't understand something, like what is she really saying, or what is going on here. But in terms of what Cirroc said, we had no input on scripts.
Sure.
They were just handed to us, and basically it was like, just you're being paid to do this.
Of course.
But they wouldn't shut the door on our face, and of course, Gene Roddenberry was still alive when I was, during this first season. So he was very, very available, and very, always had his ears open to whatever you had to say.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
He kept his ears open.
Yeah. And his heart, his ears and heart. That's a good combo.
Yeah.
All right. Great stuff. Any final thoughts?
Did Gene go to the table reads too?
Gene always did. Yeah.
Wow.
Always did. So it was always Rick Berman, the exec producer, and Gene. I'm trying to think. I think also the next director that would be directing that episode, and all the cast, they would bring in sandwiches, and we'd sit there and go, page by page, we'd read it. Now, so many other shows do that I've worked on. That's pretty typical. But I noticed that when I went back into the third season for Yesterday's Enterprise, they had abandoned that. And I think it's very helpful, very useful for so many reasons. Just that communication, to hear it all in the same room before you're on set shooting, to answer any questions or details that you might be concerned about. And it definitely is an icebreaker too for anybody that's coming as a guest that episode, or they get to wear it a little bit before they're just suddenly in costume and on set. So I don't know.
That makes sense, especially for somebody that's joined in for the very first time. It must help a lot.
Oh my God, Cirroc, did you guys do table reads when you were doing? No, it had gone by the wayside. I don't know what.
No table reads.
That probably would have been helpful for pronunciation, especially with all of the alien
Totally.
language.
Definitely for consistency,
right.
For consistency, because you say Bejor, I say Bejor, like it could have been
Bejor.
Right.
Yeah. More
Right. So
consistency.
you just show up for work, having been given the script the day before or so, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a pronunciation guide in the front of the script. But even those are read differently. So I would look at it and I might mispronounce a certain syllable differently, have different emphasis on syllables. So even with the pronunciation guide, you still couldn't get it.
Oh, I love what Mai is saying in the chat. I picked up that too. Parliament? Like, wouldn't it be? I kept hearing Patrick say.
Parliament?
Was that your note, Homer?
Yeah, that struck me every single time. It kind of took me out.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Patrick was always saying Parliament. And
well, that's because Patrick at the time had a Harley Davidson.
Oh, that's exactly what we were all thinking. Anyway, so I guess we better roll out.
I got one final ad though. I'm Captain Picard. I've got this life experience. I've obviously made it to the rank of captain off of my experiences and intelligence. I get stuck in the computer. The last thing I'm going to do is throw up a letter P for you guys. I'm going to be.
See, I was going to bring that up during things.
I'm going to be saying things. I'm going to be like communicating, like, "Hey guys, I'm stuck in the computer. Check the thing and go here and do that." Just the letter P seemed really like that's all you can muster up with the full access of the computer systems that you've integrated to. I thought it was kind of like, okay. Hey guys, look, it's a P. It's got to be Picard.
It's got to be. Who else could it be? All right.
It was kind of their version of Close Encounters, like trying to send a message, a signal of some sort.
Yeah.
Old school teletype style.
Just wait till you see Cause and Effect. That's another one that's going to have a similar kind of thing, but I think that's like 7th season. It's late. Anyway, thank you, Melissa, Mohamed, Dr. Anne Marie, Justin Weir, Dr. Susan V. Thank you, Carrie, Homer, Matt Boardman, Goldie Scott, Jed, Chris, and Mai live in Tokyo. We'll see y'all next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.